Now we're going to take a look at how to find the inverses of rationals. Rationals are where you have fractions. So if I have a rational function, it's where you have a variable in the denominator and then potentially in the numerator as well. There's only a certain kind of or certain look to the rational function that we're going to be looking at finding the inverse of. In this case, it will be a much simplified version of some rationals that you worked with in a different portion of math. Okay? So here, I'm just going to start out by switching x and y like we've done to find the inverses of everything else. So I have the f of x, which is really y, so I'm going to change that to x. And then I'm going to change the x to a y, so 3 over y plus 1. So I'm first going to get the rational by itself. So I'm going to get the fraction alone. So to get the fraction alone, okay, come on. To get the fraction alone, I'm going to subtract 1. So, come here. Okay, so I'm going to subtract 1, so now I'm left with x minus 1 equals 3 over y. So I'm going to get the y out of the denominator. Notice right now I can't solve for the y because it's in the denominator. Okay? So I can't get the y all by itself because of that. So what I'm going to do is multiply both sides by y so that I can get it out of the denominator. Okay. Now, typically in the past, we multiply the y through to the x minus 1. We're going to forego doing that, and I'm just going to write it as y times x minus 1 equals 3. Now, can you see here that I want the y by itself, and the y is being times by the x minus 1. So what I want to do is get rid of multiplying by x minus 1. So I'm going to divide by x minus 1. So this leaves me with just a y on the left-hand side, and then I have 3 over x minus 1. And then my y is by itself, and I'm going to use my function notation to say that this is the inverse. So I'm going to do f inverse of x equals 3 over x minus 1. Okay, so we get the rational by itself, the fraction by itself, get the variable out of the denominator. I don't multiply through, which would be very tempting because you become proficient at that. So I leave it with just the y on the outside, and then I divide by the quantity of x plus or minus whatever number I have here, and then that gets the y by itself. So let's try another one. Okay, so if I give you g of x equals 4 over x minus 2 minus 3. Okay, so I'm first going to switch x and y. The g of x is really our y, so I'm going to change it to x equals 4 over y minus 2 minus 3. So I want to get the fraction by itself, so I want to get this alone, so I'm going to add the 3. So I have x plus 3 equals 4 over y minus 2. So I want to get rid of the denominator, or sorry, get rid of the y out of the denominator. So I'm going to times by y minus 2. Oops, minus 2. It's going to be tempting to multiply these two things together because you've done that so many times before. But we're just going to keep it as y minus 2 times x plus 3 equals 4. Okay. So now I'm going to get rid of multiplying by the y minus 2. So I'm going to divide by x plus 3. So now I have y minus 2 equals 4 over x plus 3. And the y is not by itself quite yet, but all I have to do is add the 2 to the other side. So I end up with y equals 4 over x plus 3 plus 2. And we can just keep it so that it's just like that. Okay? And that becomes your inverse, and I'm going to rename it as g inverse of x. Okay? Let's try one more. Okay, if I give you f of x equals negative 3 over x plus 2 or plus 1. Okay. So I'm going to start out by switching x and y. So this really stands for y, so I'm going to change it to an x equals negative 3 over y plus 2 plus 1. Okay. I'm going to make that look more like a negative. Okay. So I want to get the fraction by itself, so I'm going to subtract this 1. So I have x minus 1 equals, and then I've got the 3 over y plus 2, and it's still negative. Now, I have two options here. I can take the negative with me when I multiply by the y plus 2, or I can move it so that it's up at the top and then keep it there. I'm going to choose to move the negative up top and just keep it there. Okay. So then I want the y plus 2 out of the denominator. So to get it out of the denominator, I'm multiplying both sides by y plus 2. So don't multiply these. Make sure you put them in parentheses. Equals negative 3. Okay. So I'm trying to get the y by itself, so I want to get rid of multiplying by the x minus 1 that's right there. So I'm going to divide by x minus 1. So I have y plus 2 equals negative 3 over x minus 1. But I still need to undo the adding 2, so I'm going to subtract 2 here and subtract 2 here. So I get y equals negative 3 over x minus 1 minus 2. And then since this is a function originally, I'm going to rename this to f inverse of x. And that's how you find the inverse of rationals